What if I told you that we are living through a quiet extinction? An extinction not of species, not of resources, but of thinking itself. Today we scroll, we consume, we react. But do we really think? Critical thinking, the very skill that separates independent minds from the manipulated masses, is dying, slowly, silently. And with it, the ability to reason, to question, to stand against the tide of collective stupidity. This isn't just a philosophical debate. The death of critical thinking is shaping politics, culture, education, and even how we see ourselves. We've entered an age where emotions dominate reason, where popularity beats truth, and where shouting louder matters more than thinking deeper. And here's the real danger. A society that stops thinking does not stay neutral. It doesn't just pause, it declines. When people no longer challenge ideas, they surrender to them. When questioning disappears, manipulation thrives. And when reasoning dies, stupidity spreads like wildfire. So in this video, we're going to dissect this crisis. We'll uncover how society slid into collective stupidity, why critical thinking is vanishing, and most importantly, what you can do to resist this collapse of reason. Because if you don't learn to think for yourself, someone else will do the thinking for you. Critical thinking is not just an intellectual hobby, it is survival. It's the mental armor that shields us from manipulation, propaganda, and blind conformity. But society has forgotten this. At its core, critical thinking is the ability to question, to analyze, to separate truth from illusion. It's asking, why do I believe this? Who benefits if I think this way? What if the opposite were true? The greatest minds in history, from Socrates to Descartes to Orwell, warned us that an unexamined life is dangerous. Socrates famously said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." Today, most people live unexamined lives, distracted by entertainment, headlines, and trends. The irony is that in the information age, where knowledge is at our fingertips, genuine thinking has become rare. Information is abundant, wisdom is scarce. We have access to the greatest library ever built, the internet, yet most people use it to argue, to copy opinions, or to consume endlessly. Why? Because thinking is hard. It demands effort. It requires the humility to admit you might be wrong. And in a world addicted to speed, simplicity, and certainty, real thought has become a burden. This is the first step toward collective stupidity, when people outsource their thinking, when they prefer to be told what to think instead of learning how to think. So what exactly is collective stupidity? It's when individuals who might be intelligent on their own become irrational in groups. Psychologists call it groupthink. History calls it mass hysteria. In modern times, it looks like online mobs, echo chambers, and viral outrage. Collective stupidity thrives in environments where agreement is valued more than truth, where people follow the herd to avoid conflict. It is fueled by fear of exclusion, by the need for belonging, by the illusion that if everyone believes it, it must be true. But intelligence is not measured by how loud the crowd shouts. It is measured by the ability to question the crowd. And when societies abandon this, stupidity multiplies. The danger is not just that people are wrong, it's that they are confidently wrong. And when millions of people confidently believe in illusions, they shape culture, policies, and even reality itself. History is filled with tragic examples: witch hunts, propaganda-fueled wars, economic bubbles. The patterns are the same. Smart people lose themselves in collective stupidity because it feels safer than standing alone with reason. Today, this is happening faster than ever because stupidity is now amplified by technology. Media was once a tool to inform. Now it's a machine to influence. Algorithms don't reward truth, they reward attention. What spreads is not wisdom, but outrage, not reasoning, but reaction. Social media platforms are designed to keep you hooked, not to help you think. Think about it. The most shared content is emotional, shocking, divisive. Why? Because the system knows your psychology better than you know yourself. It knows you will click on fear before you will click on facts. It knows anger keeps you scrolling longer than reason ever could. And so the cycle continues. People consume quick emotional content, repeat it without reflection, and pass it on. Critical thinking is replaced by instant reacting. News outlets, too, have shifted. Instead of analysis, they chase speed. Instead of depth, they deliver headlines. Instead of balance, they sell narratives. The result? Citizens who believe they are informed but are actually conditioned. Technology, once a tool for enlightenment, has become the perfect amplifier of collective stupidity. It doesn't make us dumber, but it rewards us for acting dumber. If society's future depends on critical thinking, then education should be its fortress. But the opposite has happened. Schools no longer teach students how to think. They teach them what to memorize. Students are rewarded for repeating answers, not for questioning them. The system doesn't produce thinkers. It produces conformists. Creativity, doubt, skepticism, these are seen as disruptions. Students who challenge ideas are often silenced, punished, or ignored. And so a generation grows up equating obedience with intelligence. This isn't education. This is indoctrination. The tragedy is that real education is not about memorizing facts. It is about learning how to analyze them, how to connect them, how to question them. Without that, people leave school with knowledge but no wisdom, degrees but no depth. And in a world that desperately needs independent thinkers, we are producing obedient workers. The cost? A society unable to resist manipulation. Why do people surrender their thinking to the crowd? Because it feels safe. Because it's easier. Because questioning is lonely, and belonging is comforting. Psychology tells us that humans are tribal by nature. We fear exclusion more than we fear being wrong. That's why people adopt the beliefs of their group, even when those beliefs are irrational. Herd mentality gives a sense of certainty, and certainty is addictive. It feels good to belong to the right side. But in this comfort lies the trap. You no longer examine the truth, you simply repeat what keeps you accepted. This is why collective stupidity feels so unstoppable. It feeds on our deepest fears, the fear of isolation, the fear of being labeled an outsider, the fear of thinking differently. But history's greatest breakthroughs, the ones that shaped science, philosophy, and human rights, came from those who defied the herd. True progress comes not from conformity, but from courage. A society that abandons critical thinking does not stay the same. It decays. Without reasoning, lies become indistinguishable from truth. Without questioning, leaders become unquestionable. Without analysis, cultures become fragile. The consequences are already visible. Polarization, where people no longer debate but only scream. Fragile beliefs, where people collapse when their worldview is challenged. Manipulated citizens, who can be controlled by headlines, by influencers, by fear. The death of critical thinking doesn't just make individuals weaker, it makes civilizations weaker. Because stupidity in small doses is funny, but stupidity at scale is catastrophic. History shows us this truth. Every empire that fell, every society that collapsed, was first weakened by its inability to think clearly. And we are no different. But all is not lost. Critical thinking may be dying, but it can be revived. It begins with you, with refusing to accept ideas blindly, with questioning, not cynically, but courageously, with remembering that truth is not a popularity contest. Here are a few simple practices. Pause before reacting. Ask yourself, why am I agreeing or disagreeing? Seek multiple perspectives. Don't live in one echo chamber. Question your own beliefs. What if you're wrong? What if the other side is right? Value truth over comfort, because reality doesn't bend to feelings. Reviving critical thinking won't be easy. It requires swimming against the current, resisting the seduction of groupthink, and facing the discomfort of doubt. But the reward is freedom, the kind of freedom that can't be manipulated, bought, or taken away. In the end, society may slide into collective stupidity, but you don't have to. You can be the exception. You can be the thinker in a world of repeaters. And maybe, just maybe, enough exceptions can shift the tide. Because the death of critical thinking doesn't have to be permanent, but only if we decide to think again.